and thank you for tuning in to Dynamic Leaders, a leadership series by Rent Dynamics. I am your host, Katherine Spear, and today I had the pleasure of interviewing Laura Patterson. Laura serves as Vice President of Risk and Strategy for CARROLL. She leads a number of initiatives there, driving strategic vision, implementation, and communication, cross-department collaboration. She also heads up their compliance and risk reduction initiatives. Laura sits on their DEI council, oversees the ESG team, and runs their budget process framework. She celebrated her 4-year anniversary with CARROLL this month, and I had so much fun chatting with her. I hope you have just as much fun hearing from her, and thank you for tuning in. Well, I'd love for our listeners to hear from you if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself and your background. You have a pretty unique story, I think. So please
Yep.
tell us more about you.
Sure. I'm happy to share. I have not a traditional foray into our industry, as probably many of our listeners or people tuning in would have. I actually started out years ago in finance in a more traditional side. Well, I will circle all the way back and say maybe there's something a little bit full circle moment in that my very first job, while I was very first sort of day professional job when I was in college, was actually working for a real estate appraiser. So maybe not so odd that I came full circle, but then I got married fairly young and was married to someone in the military and lived in some different places and just happened to find my way into finance for a number of years. First as a trust administrator at a trust department of a bank, and then worked for many years for a privately owned independent stock market research firm. And that at the time, there were only 2 in the United States when they started it, and worked for them for a number of years, doing their operations manager, doing trade settlement and conducting trades and commission reconciliation and SEC and FINRA compliance and sort of a host of operational compliance issues. And we were internationally based. We had clients in 120 different countries. We spoke to Japan, and I spoke to Japan sometimes at midnight, or Dubai or Munich. Very different lifestyle. And it actually probably took me from being sort of shy and introverted to learning how to be very quick to understand and navigate personalities, figure out who you can spend some time talking to or who you need to versus who you need to get in and get out on the phone. And so then about 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to transition from that industry into multifamily. And initially, that was with a senior living community, which I dearly love. I still have friends there. I'm still connected to some of the families that I met there. And that was really from, I knew the people who owned the business, who had paid attention to my career and what I had done, and I'd known them for years. And they really wanted to drive some operational efficiencies in their company, and also knew that I came from a very large family. I have 9 brothers and sisters through multiple marriages, and lots of nieces and nephews and extended family, and just kind of grew up with that being family and friends being of huge value to me. Also coming from the industry that I had, in particular the stock brokerage industry, but that stock market research firm, we firmly believed in developing relationships being the backbone to your success, whether it's relationships within your business and also the relationships outside of your business, who you serve, really getting to know them. So between those two things, that's how I made my way into multifamily. Like I said, I dearly love the senior living environment. It's very different in some ways, right? We're still running a structure and providing a home and creating a sense of safety and community for people. Um, there, you're also paying attention to what's happening with people's health care. You're having sometimes very difficult conversations with families about what's happening with their loved ones. But then after a few years, I was ready to kind of take my career to the next level, and happened to have a friend who was working here at the time, who had been in human resources and who had been a recruiter for a number of years, and reached out to her really for connections. And she mentioned that CARROLL had an opportunity working for the COO, David Perez, who's now at this point in his career our president and COO. And so I spoke to a couple of people and had a very long interview and conversation, sit down with David one day, and then was presented this opportunity and thought, okay, this is going to both build on what I have and stretch me in new and different ways. Have a very strong risk compliance background through the years. And so that's a huge part of what I do every day and the things that I work on here. But that's how I ended up here at CARROLL. And actually this month it marks my 4-year anniversary. So
Wow.
that's sort of my arc into our very diverse industry. And, the world is not nearly as big as we think it is. I actually have a lot of friends in this industry that I've known for years,
Yeah.
that realized when I got to CARROLL and we're talking about people that we're all interwoven with one another.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, very, very
It's
cool experience.
it's funny how that happens, and I feel like I actually have been in the industry around the same amount of time that you have. Been just over 4 years for me, and, it's it feels like so much longer in a lot of ways. I
Yeah.
think it's because of, like, the last few years that we've all had,
Yeah.
but also it just becomes such a tight-knit group so quickly, and you see so many familiar faces at events and conferences, and that just continues to grow and make it so much more fun, I think, to work in this industry and see people who you genuinely enjoy speaking to and working with.
I agree. And I think that also because the nature of what we do, even, unless you're very long-term hold, there's still a lot of transaction
Oh, yeah.
in this industry. So, we're going to run across each other. Um, it's it's so relationally based. It's also, we can't be successful without taking care of our residents
Mhm.
and placing them first. Our assets can't grow. We can't realize the value of what we're doing. And so it's just a relationship based, a strong human relationship based industry. And I love that about what we do. It gives us the opportunity to stay connected and watch one another's growth and path, and help support each other, or think as we move from one place to another, oh, I know this person, this connection here, or share connections, and also share the challenges that we're dealing with and how we're navigating those challenges. And I agree with you. I think the last few years, I know there's been different recent sort of governmental stances or whatever on the status of COVID, right? But I think that at the end of the day, COVID really changed a lot for us, and has really brought a lot of innovation and collaboration and into our industry that's been
Yeah.
exciting to watch.
Absolutely. So, in the spirit of Women's History Month, I would love to hear about some of the leaders that have impacted you, whether that be on your team at CARROLL or earlier in your career, that people that just really influenced you as a woman and encouraged your growth.
Sure. um, so I mean, I think like many people, I would probably be remiss if I didn't start with my mom. She was a single mom for a many number of years. She actually, though, in the course of her um, marriages, and I say that because she divorced my dad, remarried like many people, but she inherited 3 more daughters when she got remarried to my stepfather, and he unfortunately died when I was 16, died fairly young for all of us, and she had um, five daughters, either in or about to embark in college. And she worked her tail off and actually helped put all five of those through school as a single mom through college. Um, so there's her, my first boss. The real estate appraisal company that I worked for was a very strong female, back in a time and in an industry where wasn't necessarily fully embraced. I've been blessed probably at every single company I've ever worked for to have some really strong female leads who all brought different lessons to the table. I had one leader who used to like the phrase, "Don't start out like you can't hold out," which I really appreciate and took to heart and still take it to heart. Like, okay, that's an interesting thing to think through. We have three very dynamic, very different, wonderful RVPs that work here, that cover our all of our properties, that are amazing leaders all in their own way. Tracy Williams and Antoinette Williams and Jennifer Trapasso are fantastic leaders. Like I said, their strengths are all very different. I learn from them every day. We have some amazing conversations and we dissect a lot of things, and we're very, very blessed, I think, here at CARROLL. And I know many companies are this way, but I can honestly say we have a highly collaborative company. We recognize the value of feedback from the ground up. We engage in very challenging conversations and debate one another. Our leadership summit last year was all grounded in the book Multipliers and some content from there, which is a fantastic read for anyone who hasn't read it. I highly recommend it. And it really ingrained the nature of making space for everyone to speak, and that everybody has a voice, and that even the quietest voices sometimes have the most important things to say because they're often the ones listening the longest and analyzing. And it's really important sometimes that we are quiet. Those of us who are more likely to speak first could take a lesson probably sometimes of not speaking first.
Absolutely.
So I'm blessed with that. And we actually, we've had some really fantastic women come and go in this company. Some of those women have created our DE&I council that stands currently. Kendall Sainberg is our ESG manager, and she really created that role for herself a couple of years ago because we were looking for it, and she was extremely passionate about it. She had been a property manager, but she had been focused on it for a number of years and sort of wrote a dissertation as to why it should be her. Yeah, and I'm blessed to work with her every day. She's out on maternity leave right now. She's a member of my team. But we've got some really great leaders, and the men I want to give due. I know it's Women's History Month, but we've got some fantastic male leaders here too. I mean, David Perez is a stellar president and COO and has so much respect, not just within our company, but I think across our industry, for being an innovator and a strategic thinker, and being able also to recognize the value of bringing voices in that either have different experiences, like myself, who didn't traditionally come from this industry, or engaging in debate type conversations so that we can develop best practices and continue to move our business forward.
It's wonderful. It sounds like you were very early adapters of ESG initiatives, and I think it's become
Yeah,
such an important conversation over the last few years, but it's still, I mean, we have a long way to go.
we
Um,
do.
a
We do have a
number,
long way.
a
And
number of,
one,
I'm
oh, I'm sorry,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say a number of people that I speak to are still not familiar with what ESG even is. So, um, I'm glad I'm glad that it's on your radar, and would love to hear more about what you're doing in that regard, if you'd like to
Yeah, I
share.
mean, we started looking at ESG, like I said, probably very in depth a couple of years ago, and I think part of that, we're watching what's happening in the broader world, and there's not an industry or a country that isn't talking about it, right? I mean, it's important. We also, if we're real honest, we have to all acknowledge that there are investment dollars tied to it, which is what allows us to grow our business. Everybody wants to see what you're doing. And I think for us, and what I'm continually reminded about, and I remind other people, is so many people focus on the E and the S in the ESG. So the E, environmental, and the S in social, and the G in the governance. Reality is that most of us have a strong G presence, right? We all have governance. We all have things that sort of control our daily operations and how we checks and balance what we're doing. Um, a lot of people just don't think about it so much or start to wrap their arms around it, but it is extremely important. With my current role, the risk management element and risk mitigation of what we do rolls into my department. So we are always looking, and that's not just the incidents happening on site or the lawsuits, but it's the daily operations and the controls that we have in place and how we audit what we're doing and how we stay on top of trends. So, but the E becomes more and more present every day with what's happening from a climate risk perspective, the major disasters that have increased and that affect our business and affect how we get insured, and how we provide coverage, and that the cost of that and the impact of that on our industry is also a piece of it. So the things we do every day and the things that we are focused on every day, we're constantly evaluating the vendor suppliers that we do business with, both from what are they doing, who is their ownership group. We launched our DEI Council in 2020 here, and it's had, I think that's right, 2020, 2021. And it's had a couple of iterations. And I'm so grateful for that team. And this year I sit as a member of that team and as an executive leader for that team, to be able to have conversations and talk more in depth and decide what we're going to focus on for a company and what initiatives we want our company to be focused on. And we also have a very strong commitment to the communities and the neighborhoods immediately around our communities, including our corporate office. We have a CARROLL Community Impact Program that we launched a couple of years ago as well, and it's specifically designed for each of our offices to have a direct charitable impact within 5 miles of the properties or our corporate offices or our branch corporate offices, because we recognize that showing up and doing our jobs every day is a great give back to our community, but collectively we have the opportunity to create an enormous impact within
Yes.
our neighborhoods. And it doesn't cost us a lot. It doesn't have to financially cost us anything. The give back of time, um, we've all had moments where time has been given to us and it's transformed our lives. And so all of that, all of those various pieces collectively, we look at when we're talking about ESG, and we have really worked hard to weave it into the culture of what we do every day.
Amazing. It sounds like you're doing all of the right things at CARROLL. So I love to hear about all of these different initiatives.
Thank you. We're
Um,
trying. I think everyone in our industry is really trying. I think we all recognize the value of giving back. And we love that too. We love participating in things like the Atlanta Community Food Bank Foodathon and seeing
yes.
all these other management companies and investors and vendor partners, how they give back. It's a really great thing to see the way that our industry values um, human connection.
Yes. It was my first time attending the Can Ball last last fall, was it?
Yes.
An incredible
Did you
event.
love
It was
it?
so much fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a great event, and it's good to see everybody get dressed up too, right? And
Yeah,
like
it's always
we
fun.
see each other in our environments, we see each other at apartment association events, and so it's a fun time to give back and to raise money and
Absolutely.
support. Yeah.
I want to honor you as well for all of the charity work that you do yourself. I understand you're involved in quite a number of different organizations in the Atlanta area as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of them. The Atlanta Community Food Bank, Toys for Tots, the Ronald McDonald House. Um, there's a number of them here that we're involved in and that I like to participate in. It's important for us as a company that it's not just an expectation of our properties and the staff there and our operational staff to participate or to give back, but we really want to honor anyone who has a desire or passion, and there's a lot of us who have different passions,
Yeah.
right? So we also created at uh, in the last year we created a day of reflection for all of our team
Mm.
members for them to take an extra day to observe something that is important to them, that
Wow.
means something to them, whether it's a day or they take it as an opportunity to give back. So we try to encourage everyone to do something at minimum quarterly, but as regularly as it, feeds them. We want to honor and celebrate that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Okay, I have a fun question now.
Sure.
I would like to know what song brightens your day no matter what. If you
Okay.
hear it, it just lights you up.
So, so we may have talked about this before. Like this may be showing my age. It's gonna show my age. They're gonna people like if I say it's like a Journey song, I really feel like that's sort of classic, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, because even my son and his friends like they know who Journey is. Um, but oddly enough, and it always has since the time I was little. I'm not going to say more than that. Is uh, the song Sailing by Christopher Cross
Oh,
has
yeah.
no matter when it comes on or where I am or what kind of mood I'm in, it could be the middle of winter. For some reason, it just makes me, just sort of takes me to another place and kind of
Yes.
calms my soul and makes me think about, you know, being out and in a breeze and sort of a bit carefree. So,
Yes.
now there's numerous other songs because I come from a big music family that I love, but
Yes.
that's the one that gets me every time.
That's a great one. I love it.
Thank you. Do you have a song?
I do. Mine is, I have a few as well, but I think the number one for me is Don't You Worry About a Thing by
Oh,
Stevie
I
Wonder.
love that one. Yeah. I would say my second one is probably Into the Mystic.
Oh, that's a great one too.
I
I
love
love
that
Good
one. And then,
American.
local here in Atlanta, Zach Brown Band
Oh,
does a fantastic, they did a blend and they've done it for years where they cover that with, with another one of their songs. And so I
I'll
also
have to
love
look
that
for
one.
that one.
Oh, it's great. It's a fun one.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to share today before we wrap up here?
Um, I just think that I think one of the biggest um, and best potential uses of our time as leaders is the way that we have a platform to celebrate and encourage and lift other people up and to amplify other voices. I think in the current day and age and time, um, there's so much conversation that is important not only to our industry but the broader world about supporting diversity. And I think one of the best things we can do is make sure that um, we give credit where credit's due, and that we make space for and sometimes take a step back from being the voice so
Yes.
that other voices can step forward and share their story and their ideas, and we can recognize the value so we're in the midst of Spirit Rally, as many companies are starting to do that. And our theme for our Spirit Rallies this year is Everyone Counts.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I mean, everyone has a voice. Everyone has a story. When we're in the midst of our challenges and our crises moments, and we're trying to solve for labor shortages and all kinds of things, sometimes we just need to take a breath and take a pause and recognize, someone else and the opportunity that they may need to speak up.
Yes. It's funny in having these conversations, I'm naturally thinking of my own answers to some of these questions I've been asking. And one of the things that sticks out for me as a woman who had a woman leader that really lifted me during my time at G5, I worked with a woman named Kristen Glascock. I don't know if you know Kristen.
I don't, but
But she always would thank me when I spoke up about
I
something,
love
and she would
that.
say, "Thank you for using your voice." And it reminded me a lot of what you said. And it's,
Yeah, I've had some coaching moments. I mean, one of the things that I have always believed, and I've been lucky enough to work at a number of companies where they really meant it when they said the door was always open. Um, I have made that clear to anyone in our company. Like, you don't have to be in my department or whatever. If there's something I can help you with, or um, give you guidance on, or feedback, or you have a question or a concern, like, my door truly is open. And because of that, I probably have worked some really long hours over the years and whatever, but I think it's so important for us to make the space. And I've had some opportunities where I've been blessed enough to coach, um, not just people in general, but women who do come into my office, or who have an opportunity to talk to, even, wherever. And when they express a concern, or ask for their guidance for their own careers and paths, um, one of the things that I guide them on is, you have a voice and you need to use it. And as long as it's done in a way that is respectful. I think of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her famous quote about speak in a manner that can be heard. I'm paraphrasing, that's not it
yeah.
exactly, but I think that's her point. Is it's not just important. We all have something important to say, but sometimes it's how we say it
Mm.
that changes it from being heard or not heard. But at the very least, speak up. And hopefully people are surrounded by leaders, or can engage with a leader who makes space for them to
Yes.
speak up. And as leaders, hopefully we can recognize when we're speaking too much and need to be quiet a little bit.
Absolutely. On that note, if someone did want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
I mean, they're welcome to send me an email. It's Laura.Patterson, Laura, Patterson at carrollorg.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone and everyone. Hopefully you're not a scammer. And I'm happy to connect. I do have a phone in my office. I am in my office 4 days a week. I work from home on Fridays, but and I will actually give out my phone. Oh, do I want to give out my phone number? Sure, I'll give out my phone number. It gets called all the time, anyways. 404-812-8228. But I'm here. You can also find me at Apartment Association events if you're in Atlanta. But happy to connect with anyone and talk about all manner of things.
Well, thank you, Laura. This conversation has been so energizing for me, and I really appreciate your time and have loved getting to know you.
Well, I thank you for your time too, Catherine, and thank you for asking. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and look forward to talking to you some more.
Thank you.